Good morning, everybody. It's me again, just giving a weekly sort of grown-up assembly, saying hello. Just about 10 minutes or so of thoughts on what's going on and what's occurring at the moment. So this week I've had some cause to look back on one of my favourite news stories from 2016, which I'm pleased to say I've found. And it's about the Orthodox churches, that's sort of Eastern churches of Christianity, places like the Greece, Russia, that's a part of the world. Now, they met about 1300 years ago. It's the last time they had a big sort of general council, general meeting of the Orthodox churches. And since then, middle of the 8th century, they've not really seen much cause to change direction or to indeed have another big meeting. So there's been some minor things like the rise of Islam, the fall of Constantinople, the Great Schism, but none of them really kind of got them together to have a full meeting. But in about 1960, they thought, do you know what? Perhaps it's time. It's been 1300 years. Let's get together and have a general council. And so they started planning it. Didn't want to rush things. They gave themselves about 50 years to sort of plan the agenda for the meeting, etc. And then it reached this news story in 2016. Because having spent sort of 50 years planning this meeting, they then thought, oh, actually, we've had a big disagreement now, and over that vital at meetings, which is the seating plan. And they couldn't reach agreement over the seating plan, so they thought, well, perhaps we're rushing this. We'll cancel the meeting. Now, I slightly lost the story after that. I don't know whether they've kind of sorted out the seating plan, but that sort of is perhaps one sort of speed to operate at, maybe just a tad on the slow side. I'm not sure, but I do want to think this morning about just the speed of reflection, and I want to introduce you to something that sort of theological students have drummed into them right at the beginning, particularly if they're training for ministry. And it's a circle. It's a circle that begins with perhaps an experience we've had. And, COVID-19 coming on might come into that category. And what the cycle does is encourage students to reflect theologically, and perhaps not quite to the extent of those Orthodox churches, but not sort of have a knee-jerk reflex reaction, but to go around a cycle that says, well, we might need to do a bit of theological reflection. We might like to think about what the Bible says. We might like to pray. We might look at, church history. Where has the church been here before? What have the great saints of the church said on this issue? And we might like to sort of learn from that. And having done that, then we might decide on the course of action, how we'd like to respond. Maybe there's things we'd like to change, there's things we'd like to update. And then we kind of put those actions, those plans into action. And then we start the circle again, because then that brings a whole new set of experiences of, well, how did that go once we'd done the changes? Let's theologically reflect on them. And the idea is that through ministry and through the church and through the ages, you're continually going through that cycle. Now, it seems to me that one of the things that's happening at the moment is that sometimes that cycle is getting a bit too sped up. Now, as I say, I think probably the kind of taking sort of 1300 years to call a meeting and 55 years to draw up a seating plan is probably going to the other extreme. But I sometimes think when people are talking about, long-term lessons to be learnt, or, what's the new normal? Well, we now know that these restrictions, it's going to be months before they're fully lifted. We don't know exactly, because we don't know how the virus is going to progress, but it's months rather than weeks. So there are certainly some sorts of measures we've had to do. I mean, apart from anything else, we've closed all the churches. And so, yeah, there are measures we have to take, and then we'll have to sort of work out how we work within the unfolding scenarios and restrictions. And that's going to take thought. But I do want to sort of step back from that and say that those people are saying that, there are much longer term lessons, that, there are permanent things which we ought to change, we ought to do. I just want to say that's probably going to take a little longer. And if it's not something that needs to be done now, I think it would be good to just take stock and to wait a bit. I mean, particularly with sort of, social media and the news and everything, there is this temptation, I think, to jump very quickly to where we're going to be. And it's not just in the church, it's in the world as well. And so, about Wednesday last week, I started seeing sort of social media reactions to what Boris might say on Sunday. Some of them quite strong. Now, I know these things are kind of leaked beforehand. I'm not that naive, but I did sort of think, yeah, perhaps there is just the need just to wait for a little bit. And as I say, to distinguish between those things which are kind of measures we're having to take, and we're partly having to make those up as we go along, aren't we? I mean, and there's things happening probably this week which will slightly kind of change how we're doing things. But I want to distinguish them from those longer term things. And as I say, I've seen one or two things, not really from our local area, but you get sort of people talking on social media and church websites and things about sort of very long term lessons or changes to be learned, of which there will be some. But I think if they are of that longer term, and both for society and the church, and they don't need to be decided now, let's make sure we go through that cycle. Let's not say, this is how it's going to be for the next 1300 years because of these few months. Let's take this experience to heart, do what we need to do, reflect theologically, and take our time where we can over that. Then do a bit of kind of learning about things. Then, when the time is right, think, well, perhaps there are some things which will need to change permanently. We put them into action. And then, as I say, keep going round that cycle. But let's be a bit patient about those long-term things. Because, as I say, on the one hand, the Orthodox Church, perhaps, dare I say it, moving a little bit slowly, taking over a millennia to have a meeting. But on the other hand, it is possible also to go too fast, to make radical changes or to react very quickly to things, which actually could take a bit of reasoned thought. And let's face it, one of the things we have at the moment is a bit of time to do reflection. As I say, there may be things we've got to decide now. I'm not arguing about that. There are things that have got to be done immediately. But beyond that, actually, we have got time. Let's take some time to slow down and think. And that might just be good anyway, just to think about God, about the church, about where we're going, about what we are here to do as the people of God. So I just leave you with that thought. Hope you're keeping well. Do keep in touch through the website, Facebook pages, etc. And as ever, if there are things that we can help with, we'll try our best. Do be in touch. So keep safe and God bless. Thank you very much. Cheers. Bye-bye.